The latest information on the crash of the Riga-Moscow train, eyewitness accounts. Dubasari, last night was relatively calm. Presidents Yeltsin and Nazarbayev propose new measures to resolve the conflict in Karabakh. Fire at the Balakov nuclear power plant, no change in the radiation levels. Good evening. The latest reports on the train crash between Riga and Moscow, as we already reported on March 3rd at the station near Sosing, passenger train number 4 en route from Moscow to Riga collided with a cargo shipment. The government commission is at work at the scene of the accident. Here's what we know at this hour. 40 people are dead. Two main theories are advanced on the cause of the crash. First, the engineers ran past a red signal. The crew of the passenger train did not respond to the last attempt to communicate with them. Perhaps they fell asleep or were distracted by conversation, or the equipment malfunctioned. The second possible reason, during the stop, the brakes could have been disabled. The dilemma is, was it done deliberately or through criminal negligence? Yuri Komarotsky was riding in the 12th car of this unlucky train between Riga and Moscow, which derailed yesterday. When did the first help arrive? The first help was given by passengers themselves, who had jumped out of the cars and helped to pull the wounded out of the train and helped to evacuate them themselves. The first car was totally burned. And when I arrived at the point of the collision, the first car was not even visible in the flames. The second and third cars were partially evacuated by passengers themselves. What government services came to help the wounded? I believe no government services came. All the injured were evacuated by other passengers who had jumped out of the other cars. How were you removed from the place of the tragedy? A diesel locomotive came 3 or 4 hours later to take us away and evacuated the people to a neighboring town. The government services which could have come to the site of such a tragedy, helicopters with qualified medical personnel, apparently still remain a dream for us. I suppose so. I did not hear anything about helicopters. Thank you. You were very lucky. Thanks for coming into our studio. Last night was relatively calm in Dubasari. According to some reports, the recent conflicts in Prednistrov resulted in 7 deaths and several dozen injured people. The army Moldovan sources report that 2 Cossack regiments plan to come to Dubasari. After 3 days of conflict on the banks of the Dniester River, we know from reliable information that 6 people have been killed in the fighting and shooting. 20 defenders of Prednistrov are wounded. The residents of Dubasari are on constant guard of sudden attack or provocation from the surrounding villages. They are especially alarmed by the accumulation of armed forces, police and interior ministry troops of Moldova in the village of Kachieri, 5 kilometers of Dubasari, on the territory captured by them yesterday from the CIS Unified Armed Forces. Armed forces of the Prednistrov Guard and the Don Cossack fighters have been sent in that direction. Today, as we transmit this report, Prednistrov has not heard a single shot except for a military salute for those who were killed. There are reports that from moment to moment, negotiations should begin between representatives of Moldova and Prednistrov to prevent the escalation of the conflict. Today, the Parliament of the Republic met to discuss the situation in Prednistrov. The Security Minister Pugari and Interior Minister Lantoch informed the deputies that the situation in the region is very complex, especially in the village of Kachieri, where armored equipment was used against the civilian population. As a result of the conflict between Guardsmen and Cossacks, conflict with Guardsmen and Cossacks, there are casualties. The leaders of the illegal republic are encouraging mass psychosis, inspiring a mood of violence and frightening the people with a non-existent threat of Moldovans. A government commission has been created to appeal to foreign leaders about the opinion of the parliament on the illegal and immoral behavior of the leaders of Pridnestrov. A decision was also made according to which the Russian-speaking members of the parliament will condemn the separatist activities in a message to the CIS parliaments. Our correspondent in Dubasara reports that Moldavian President Snegur met several times today with the leaders of Tiraspol. There is information that the president is preparing measures to stop the conflict in Dubasare. We received this report from the NEGO information agency. As the republics move farther and farther apart, Russians abroad face a dilemma: to return to their shrinking homeland or to assimilate. But where Russians' population is dense, it is hard to make them feel like homeless immigrants. Local authorities are often forced to deal with radical nationalism and fear appearing indecisive. Therefore, they pay little attention to the Russian factor. Today in Estonia, voices are more loudly calling for the deportation of the Russian population. The local newspaper Koduma has already raised this issue long ago. It has written, "If insignificant minorities try to throw sticks into the spokes of the vast majority, then this minority must be suppressed." This minority of Russians, which is about 40% of the Estonian population, are called more and more often migrants, occupiers, or colonists. According to the recently adopted law on citizenship, people who have other nationality are deprived of the right to have dual citizenship, say with Russia or Ukraine. And to obtain Estonian citizenship, it's necessary to pass a language test. This is the cleverness of the law. Even in better times, teachers of Estonian were in short supply, and now private courses are too expensive for most Russians, or as they say in the jargon of perestroika, the Russian-speaking population. Russians here fear that with the withdrawal of the army, they will lose all their rights, because the increasingly influential Congress of Citizens of Estonia does not hide its desire to create an ethnically pure Estonian state. An agreement defending the rights of non-native populations has not yet been concluded between Estonia and Russia. Now, people have more difficulty finding out about the events in the former Soviet Union from Channel 1 on television. We are used to receiving TV signals free and whenever we want, but television costs an incredible amount of money. Our television company's chairman has now proposed to create an international television company to broadcast to the countries of the Commonwealth and other states on the territory of the former Soviet Union. If this common information and cultural space is as interesting to the leaders of these countries as it is to viewers. We are making a proposal to meet on the 20th in Kiev to decide this issue. I believe that the company should be an international company within the framework of the CIS and the other independent states on the territory of the former Soviet Union. The founders of this company should be the members of the CIS as successors to the Soviet Union. The details of this press conference by the leader of the Russian television company Ostankino will be shown immediately following the news. The test of the CIS in the Caucus has failed, according to the English paper Guardian, accusing the CIS government of incapability of influencing the resolution of the conflict. Kazakh President Nursultan Nazarbayev is not so pessimistic. He gave us an exclusive interview. The first thing we need to do is take a decision at the Council of Heads of State to bring about an immediate ceasefire and removal of the blockades of roads and telecommunications. Second, in order to demonstrate the goodwill and peaceful intentions of their states, I believe that we must temporarily stop the process of creation of their own armed forces in these countries, especially in the area of the Caucasus. Number 3, we must immediately begin to create special peacekeeping forces to be sent to crisis regions in the Commonwealth of Independent States, which would be subordinate to the Council of Heads of States. The Republic of Kazakhstan is prepared to make this proposal. Incidentally, this project was proposed at one of the first meetings of the heads of state of the Commonwealth. It was not adopted then. We see now that this document is necessary, and this agreement and these forces should be created. Number 4, I believe it is necessary to support the peace efforts of the Council on Security in Europe, which will send their representatives to the Commonwealth for participation in mediation groups to resolve conflicts. I believe that without the participation of us all, we cannot resolve these conflicts. We must include the participation of all citizens of the country we now call the Commonwealth of Independent States, because this concerns all of us, and we should not remain on the sidelines. Russia is interested in the immediate ceasefire in Karabakh. President Yeltsin declared today. He reported that he will send Russian Foreign Minister Kozyrev on a mediation mission to Karabakh.